Our mission is to help children of incarcerated parents. And the kids we work with, they have an almost toxic mix of stress and stigma and trauma that comes along with having a mom or dad who's been in prison. And when we talk to our kids, what we find is that they are living with high levels of poverty. In many cases, repeated traumatic instances. Some of them suffer from PTSD, and they'll spend much of their lives trying to cope with that. And just overall, there's a high level of stress and uncertainty of not knowing really what's happening with your family, what's going to happen. And so what we find is they go to school and they've got this baggage that they carry with them. And it makes it impossible for them to learn. And either they lose interest, they become disconnected, or they are labeled as disciplinary problems, or they just generally turn off. And if they don't graduate from high school, their chances of repeating that cycle and going to prison themselves are so much higher. That's why they call it this cycle of multi-generational incarceration. And the only way we can stop it is to get the kids when they're still in school and put them on a new path and give them the tools to go on a new path. So that's our mission. We and pretty much every nonprofit, we were going along great until March, and then we started to see warning signs, and then April we just fell off the cliff. And we were like every other, and we had to implement some pretty severe cutbacks to stay afloat. But for our students, the impact of COVID has really made their challenges just so much more monumental. Their families are living paycheck to paycheck. COVID knocked a lot of people out of work. It made a lot of people sick. I mean, a lot of the families have had someone who's come down with COVID. But the school piece, you're taking kids who are already disconnected from their education in general. And then we add the chaos that's gone on in schools. And our kids are drifting further and further from the educational process. And there are some experts that believe that America's going to see 1 million additional dropouts because of this disconnected problem with our at-risk youth. There's a stigma. Dad or mom's in prison. Some kids don't even want to talk about that. Some kids that come into the program still won't acknowledge that they have a parent in prison because it just is too hard to talk about. The other is that if mom or dad goes to prison, it pulls any money that they were earning out of the family. And what you find is that homelessness, for example, goes up by about 130% immediately after mom or dad goes to prison. And when the parent comes back, they'll never reach the level of economic security that they could have otherwise. That is weighing on the kids, and just sometimes being able to get together with other students who have lived the same experience and have something in common with them, to be in a place where they feel safe, not judged, supported, and to know that there's really unconditional, in other words, love. That's the thing we supply. And so what tends to happen through our program is the kids are able to calm down a little bit. They're able to start thinking in terms of, how do I get through these problems, or how do I move on to the next phase of my life? They're able to take a breath. And that tends to improve academics, and it tends to keep them out of trouble. It gives them positive role models instead of negative ones. And the No More Victims program at the high school level, the proof of that is that they've graduated just about every kid that's gone through the program for 20 years now. We're very proud of the job that No More Victims has done. But we've realized that because it's a high school program, how many students never make it to high school? Either because they drop out or they become just disconnected and they just shut down. And everyone wants you to start growing up, and you may not be quite ready to. And this is when, early adolescence is when students develop depression for the first time often. It's when bullying picks up. It's when gangs begin. It's when kids will drift away from the tracks. In fact, you can look at the number of times that a middle schooler is truant, misses school, the way their grades drop, and the number of times they're disciplined, suspended, or sent to the office, and predict fairly well how many of those kids are going to drop out. 20% of the young men, 1 in 5 of the young men who grow up in these neighborhoods where we're going to be serving, are predicted to go to prison when they grow up. And so we looked at that and we thought, that's where we need to have our next program. So we call it GEMS, Gaining Empowerment in Middle School. And we'll offer it once a week. And then outside the class, we'll have enrichment activities and we'll work with the families so that they have a little more support. And this is where connecting them with those food, housing, legal services will pay off. So that we can form more of a village around this kid. And then in class, we can work on these skills that early adolescents need. And so the classes will focus on the skill sets that let kids develop into a healthy adult, to help show them another world and maybe the one they experience, is how we hope to change. And we think it's a revolutionary program. We're so appreciative right now of the people who see what we're trying to accomplish and see the need. And even if they may not have somebody who's ever been to prison, understand what having a parent who's incarcerated can do to a kid, and in turn what that does for a society. We appreciate the people who understand that and support us and to work with us, and just thank you.